Okay, so we're diving deep today into brown fat.
It's pretty fascinating stuff.
It is, and it's, we talk about good fats and bad fats.
Right.
This is one of those good fats.
Yeah, this is, definitely brown fat's on the good list.
Yeah, so brown fat is, it's not the kind of fat that, like, hangs out on your belly.
Right.
It's a fat that actually burns calories.
Yeah, it's more like a furnace inside your body.
Yeah.
It's burning calories to produce heat.
So it's the opposite of, like, white fat.
It is, yeah. It's we're so used to thinking about, that white fat that we try to, get rid of.
When you're trying to pinch an inch.
Right, exactly. This is totally different.
So brown fat is different.
Yeah, and it can help you burn more calories.
Okay, so let's talk about that, how it works.
Okay, so brown fat gets its color from a high concentration of iron-rich mitochondria.
Ooh, that sounds fancy.
It is pretty cool. These mitochondria are like the powerhouses of the cells. They're what generate energy.
So these mitochondria, they are what makes the fat brown.
Exactly, yeah. And the more mitochondria, the more energy these cells can produce and the more calories you can burn.
Okay, so where is this brown fat? Like, where is it in my body?
You'll find it mainly in small deposits around your neck,
Okay.
shoulders, along your spine, and even near your kidneys.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
I would have thought it was, like you said, around my belly.
Right. But it's actually these kind of more, I don't know, strategically placed areas.
Yeah, and babies have more brown fat than adults.
They do. Babies have a lot more brown fat because they can't shiver to stay warm yet.
Okay, that makes sense.
So the brown fat helps them regulate their body temperature.
Okay, so we know now that brown fat is brown because of the mitochondria,
Yes.
which are like the powerhouses of the cells and they burn energy.
Exactly.
So what are the benefits of brown fat besides just like keeping us warm?
Well, one of the biggest benefits is its impact on weight management. Since brown fat burns calories to produce heat, researchers think that activating it could be really helpful for combating obesity.
Okay, so how many calories are we talking about? Like, is this significant or is this just like a tiny amount?
Well, the research is still ongoing, but some studies are suggesting that brown fat can burn a substantial number of calories, especially when it's activated by things like cold exposure.
Okay, well, that's good news.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So are there other benefits to brown fat besides just burning calories and weight management?
Yeah, definitely. Brown fat plays a crucial role in improving insulin sensitivity.
Oh, okay, so that's good for people who have type 2 diabetes.
Exactly, yeah. So when brown fat is active, it actually pulls glucose directly out of the bloodstream and uses it for energy.
Okay, so can you break that down for me? Because I know insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, like how does that work?
Sure. So in type 2 diabetes, your body's cells become resistant to insulin, which is the hormone that helps your body use glucose for energy.
Right.
When your cells are resistant to insulin, glucose builds up in the bloodstream instead of getting into the cells where it's needed. But active brown fat can actually help overcome this resistance by directly taking up glucose from the blood and using it. So it's kind of like a backup system for regulating your blood sugar.
Oh, that's amazing. So you're saying like it helps prevent those like sugar highs and crashes?
Exactly. It helps to keep those blood sugar levels more stable.
That's really cool.
It is.
So we talked about before that something like fasting can actually activate brown fat.
Yes.
Can you explain that? Like, how does that work?
Sure. So when you fast or abstain from food for a certain amount of time, it triggers the release of a hormone called norepinephrine.
Okay.
And that norepinephrine activates brown fat.
So by not eating, we're telling our body to start burning fat.
Exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like a signal flare to your brown fat saying, hey, we need to start burning some fuel here.
So norepinephrine is like the signal.
It is. It binds to specific receptors on brown fat cells called beta-adrenergic receptors.
Okay.
And that binding triggers the breakdown of stored fat and its conversion into energy, which produces heat.
Wow. Okay, so we're getting really scientific here.
We are a little bit.
I love it. But so fasting sends the signal. Norepinephrine kicks the process into gear, and then it starts burning stored fat for fuel.
Exactly.
Which boosts brown fat activity.
Yes.
Okay, so how does that work? Like, why does it start burning stored fat?
Well, think about it. When you're fasting, your body goes into a state of energy conservation.
Okay.
It's not getting its regular energy from food.
Right.
So it has to turn to its stored fat reserves as its main source of fuel.
Makes sense.
And this shift directly activates brown fat because brown fat is the primary tissue responsible for burning fat to generate heat.
It's amazing how our body adapts like that.
Yeah, it is. It's really remarkable how it all works together.
Okay, so there's got to be some research on this, like fasting and brown fat. What have they found?
There's a lot of research happening right now, and the findings are really interesting.
Okay, what have they found?
Well, studies have shown that combining fasting with cold exposure
Okay.
can really increase brown fat activity.
Really? So like a cold shower after you've been fasting?
Uh-huh. Well, you don't necessarily have to jump into a cold shower, but the idea is that cold exposure helps activate brown fat even more.
Okay, so how does that work?
It makes sense when you think about it. Brown fat's main job is to generate heat.
Right.
So when you're cold, your body has to work harder to keep its core temperature up.
Okay.
And this increased demand for heat tells your brown fat to kick into high gear.
So what are some practical ways that I can do this, like in everyday life?
Well, intermittent fasting has become really popular.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it involves cycling between periods of eating and fasting.
Okay.
And this has shown to be a pretty effective way to keep brown fat working well.
Is that something you recommend?
It can be a really good approach for a lot of people, but, and this is important, you should always talk to your doctor before making any big changes to your diet.
Right, of course.
They can help you figure out if intermittent fasting is right for you and how to do it safely.
Yeah, I feel like anytime I try something like that on my own, I mess it up.
Yeah, it's always better to have professional guidance.
So I remember you mentioned something about the circadian rhythm of brown fat, like it has its own rhythm?
It does, yeah, just like a lot of processes in our bodies. Brown fat activity fluctuates throughout the day.
So when is it most active?
It tends to be most active during the daytime and less active at night.
Okay, so if I'm trying to activate my brown fat, what's the best time to do it?
Well, working with your body's natural rhythm is always best. So, for example, maybe take a cold shower in the morning, or you can schedule your fasting periods to match up with the times when your brown fat is naturally more active.
Okay, I never thought of that.
It can make a big difference.
So we've learned a lot about brown fat today.
We have. It's really quite remarkable.
It is a metabolic superhero.
It is.
It burns calories, improves insulin sensitivity, potentially helps us manage our weight.
All good things.
It's like a hidden superpower that we all have.
It is. And the best part is we can actually do things to make it work even better.
Yeah, so for our listeners out there, maybe think about this. Could activating your brown fat, with fasting and cold exposure, be the key to unlocking better metabolic health?
It's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, it's something worth exploring and, see how your body responds. But again,
Right.
talk to your doctor before making any big changes.
Always a good idea.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into brown fat.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It was fascinating. We'll have to do this again sometime.
I'd love to.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for today's deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Keyword!